Hello and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. We provide fan-oriented and analytic discussions on a variety of animated shows, movies, and anime, including Steven Universe, Gravity Falls, and Rick and Morty. I'm Dylan Hysen, and today I'm joined by Delaney Stovall.
Hello.
Delaney and I are finishing our watch-through of Over the Garden Wall on this podcast. The last Over the Garden Wall podcast we'll be doing, we're discussing the last two episodes. Get hype,
Ooh.
yay. So, spoilers for all of Over the Garden Wall now. Finally, that Delaney and I are finished. We're discussing Into the Unknown and The Unknown. Wow, really? Those are the last two titles today. And the entire series all together. You can find everything about this podcast at overlyanimated.com. But, Delaney, let's get right into it. You just watched the last two episodes of Over the Garden Wall. What is your reaction?
I'm really glad we got episode 9, background, what was going on. I'm not actually satisfied with the ending.
Plot-wise?
Yes, plot-wise. Because it was the ending we were like, I don't want this ending, and that's the ending we got. And, we kind of found out the whole overarching plot was what we didn't want.
What do you mean? What do you mean the overall? What do you think the overarching plot was?
Well, it was what we didn't want it to be, but I don't think that makes what happened any less meaningful and interesting, and it was still really clever.
Yeah.
It was all for a girl, and all of this happened.
Interesting.
He's dumb. But I don't think that really, it doesn't take away what happened, and it definitely doesn't diminish his relationship with his brother, which was obviously strengthened by this experience.
Yeah.
And it turns out that it was all some sort of
what?
Not dream, but I guess dream. They were drowning.
Okay, so, I don't know, you just watched it. I've had time to think about it from a few hours ago, and I've rewatched both episodes. So I think that this actually is not what we didn't, we wanted. So Delaney and I in a previous podcast expressed our worry that this was all just a growth, journey for Word, and it was all make-believe in order for him to gain confidence to go after the girl, right?
Yeah.
Which is kind of what happened, but I actually think that's not. I'm very satisfied in how the show handled it, because
I'm satisfied with that. I'm just not satisfied that that's what it was.
Well, no, I'm saying that I don't think it is what it was, because at the end of episode 9, the key moment for me is Wirt realizing that he was not good to Greg, and that he's been worrying too much about himself and about Sarah.
Yeah.
And he says, I was never any good to him alive either. To me, it's okay, I kind of, this was about Sarah, but it really was about Wirt, figuring his life out and stop being this mopey teenage boy. And I really actually liked where it went. I know Sarah was involved at the end, but considering this is we got kind of the it's all for the girls ending type thing, it really wasn't that. Then this is one of the best examples I've ever seen of this type of thing being handled. I really like this ending as a conclusion to Wirt's character. I really kind of relate to him, and this is a big deal because I never like male characters in anything.
Never. If there's a cute girl, Dylan's I like that character, and that's it.
Female characters are written much more sympathetically in modern media, all universally, from my perspective. It's there's Aang, there's Steven from Steven Universe, and then there's very few others, male characters, who I think are written with any sort of actual emotion and humanity within them. Bolin is an example of someone who also is, it's somewhat well handled in that regard. But Worth, I really relate to him. Wirt to me is kind of the type of teenager that I feel like I am, and I feel like a lot of us are. In that it's not all just dumb teenager or stereotypical high school movie. It's a lot of depression and not understanding how the world works, and just not doing things right for yourself or for anyone around you. And that's kind of the place where it's in the entire thing. And I feel like we get kind of a satisfying conclusion to that, is he gains confidence at the end, but it's not confidence to get with Sarah. It's confidence to, even though it kind of is a little bit, it's more confidence to approach the world in a different light and care more about his brother, and just not be so just generally down on the world. Like, he can fit in. It's kind of himself that was it's himself that was preventing him from fitting in all along, really, not the people around him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is very clearly presented
Yeah.
through like the entirety of episode 9.
Yeah, so for me, these last two episodes, episode 9 is such an unexpected gem for me. I didn't expect to get this flashback episode kind of explaining the origins of even anything from their design to how they got there and what's causing all this character strife for Wirt. And episode 9 is just, pretty incredible. It's basically perfect television, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, like, for me, episode 9 is the gem. And episode 10, I like it as a conclusion. It doesn't do anything in terms of, like, epic plot-wise of, like, what we were speculating on. Kind of it's one of those endings that makes you look dumb for overthinking it,
Yeah.
But, like, looking back, I'm satisfied with this ending. I feel like it is appropriate for the plot that was previously presented, and it was a very good ending for a miniseries.
Like, it wasn't like super quick or anything either. Like, I didn't feel like I was let down. Honestly, I don't care about Wirt. Like, I care about Wirt, but I don't. So, like, the conclusion I was fine with. Like, everything that was over the garden wall, I'm fine with. It was just the rest of it that I was like, eh. But actually, I was satisfied with, like, the ending to what was happening in the forest.
Really interesting, yeah. I mean, it's just very little actually happened, right? It's like the beast just got extinguished right away. I mean, we kind of learned the true nature of the beast. It's actually.
Did I predict that he was the lantern?
I
had like 4 predictions.
I think that you said that at some point during the last few podcasts. I think so. So credit to you. And I mean, really, it was just like, who really cares, if the beast is the lantern? But I mean, and he was, and he just gets blown out. So there you go.
I enjoy Wirt going like, like when he acted like he was going to, and like he just freaked out.
Yeah,
pretty good.
It's this is one of my favorite endings in terms of like a coming of age story. I feel like this is one of the best presented. It's like explicit enough that I'm able to take it away. I don't like things being too subtextual and stuff like that. I feel like you need to present things in somewhat of an explicit light if you want them to be understood, but it wasn't also jarring dialogue. Yeah, there's no terrible dialogue needed to achieve it or plot events. And I just love how, Wirt's encounter with the beast and everything in episode 9 just is presenting Wirt gaining confidence and, just being more of just what I said before about it's him preventing himself from fitting in, and he can, approach the world in this new light and stuff like that. So I guess, like, in some ways the ending is not what I thought it would be, but it's like what it was really good and better than I thought what I thought would happen was, if that makes sense.
I think that was part of it. Was like I was more like, I like Wirt, but I wasn't like as invested in him as I was like everything else that was going on in the forest. Like, I'm always invested in the fantasy elements. Like, that's what I'm here for. That's why I'm like, yay. So, I mean, I liked the whole backstory and finding out like, oh, it was just Halloween. Like, that was really interesting. And it was funny, and like it was like it's very interesting, and like I like things like that, but I don't know, it didn't, like, I appreciate what it did and like what it did for Wirt's character, but like I don't relate to Wirt. Like, I can relate on like, the teenager experience and like you're talking about like the depression and things, but I can't I just didn't click with Wirt. And like, I care more about Wirt and Greg's relationship than I care about Wirt.
Yeah.
And how that happened, and I think that's part of it. Like, I have a younger brother, and that kind of like, that was for me, that was where my connection was, and kind of being like, you can always be a better sibling, and you can always care a little more, and I don't know, like, so I think my favorite part was how they kind of left it up to, it really was a very much a Harry Potter, this all happened in your head, but why would that mean that it wasn't real? Like, I very much enjoyed that we got that kind of ending where we kind of, like, was it real? Was it like, or was it not? And going through and we saw all of the characters. I was right. I knew we were going to see all of them.
Yeah, I think we said that would happen. Yeah.
Yeah, we flashed through all of them because you asked me. You're like, "Do you think it's going to happen?" I was like, "Yes, do it. Call it."
Yeah.
And we went through every single one of them. I think the biggest shock, though, was that we had already seen Beatrice's design.
When had we seen her design before?
She's in the theme song. She's in the first
Oh,
episode.
really? Interesting.
Yes.
I see. I don't remember the theme song.
And I had thought when we saw the theme, I was like, "Who is that? Like, are we going to see her at some point?" Like, I had been waiting to see her crop up, but I didn't think that she was Beatrice.
Yeah. I think.
It didn't occur to me.
So let me try to maybe sum up, present in a different light some of the things you've been saying. So, like, I feel like where you're coming from is that this ending is really Wirt perspective centric. Like,
I do think it's clever, and I did like it, but
yeah. So, like, the ending has there's clearly a resolution to Wirt and Greg's sibling relationship. But it's the conclusion is that Wirt needs to care more about his, younger stepbrother. And it's like he shouldn't be so focused on himself and stuff like that. There's nothing from...
and he shouldn't blame, like, he's been blaming Greg for all
he
these
shouldn't
things.
blame him,
like,
too,
really Greg's fault.
And there's no resolution of it from Greg's perspective, maybe. And there's no resolution to the story from Beatrice's perspective.
No. Well, pretty much it turns out that, none of this was actually real, depending on how you want to take it, like, or everyone goes through these kinds of things and you come up with these kinds of lies. Like, that's like the song is, like, the lies and, like, the lies we tell ourselves and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think this show is clearly trying to present, in the ending, I feel like the main element is it's like, is it real or not in your head? It's important to them. It's like, that's the main element. Yeah. But the secondary thing is the show is presenting what happened as real. And that is, it's very quick, but Greg at the end is ringing the frog. The bell is still inside the frog. So that's the inception, the top stop spinning moment, which never happens. That is like a clear indicator from an actual thing that happened in the show that the unknown is real and the events actually happen. And it's like, why else would we go to check in on all the people after that, and if it wasn't real? But ultimately it doesn't really matter, right?
No, it doesn't.
Yeah. That it's just that it was this experience that they went through, that was this growth experience for them.
Yeah. And even if it, like, and going for it to be real, like, yeah, they were drowning, but the whole idea is that if you're lost, that's what the unknown is. That's what he's talking, like, the beast focusing on. If you're lost in the forest, you become the tree, the Outerwood tree. And then, so they were lost, both Greg and Wirt. And, like, Wirt was lost kind of in an internal kind of way. And then, I don't know about Greg. I mean, Greg was just kind of there. Maybe lost in the way all children are lost, but so I mean that there's clearly, like, very thematic. Like, they were lost and, like, they were in the unknown. Like, that's how it is. And you talk about that's what childhood is like and things like that. So I think they're, like, whether real or not, but there are definitely strong indicators, like, either, and, like, it's however you want to take it. But definitely the show presented it as, these things all happen.
Yeah, it's a good point. The big, shtick with the beast turns out to be that he's taking these lost souls, turning them into the Outerwood trees, which in turn refuels his soul in the lantern, right? So he just, like, he preys on he's basically the presence that preys on lost, children's souls in the unknown, which thematically ties to Wirt a lot.
In depression and things like that. Yeah,
another point you brought up. You said basically you were satisfied with the mythology of the ending, in terms of the in-universe stuff, but maybe, I think you didn't say it explicitly, but maybe what you mean is that we didn't necessarily get enough of a focus on the in-universe unknown stuff rather than focusing on Wirt's growth. Is that what you mean?
Especially like, me and you both were like, Beatrice is the best. Like, Beatrice is my favorite character. Like, Wirt and Greg, but, like, Beatrice is my favorite character. And, like, in the last two episodes, like, Beatrice didn't matter. Like, Beatrice, brought Wirt to Greg, and she was like, I have to go back to my family. But there was, like, no resolution. Like, she kind of has a little bit of, I guess, a character moment where she's like, I have to go tell my family that I'm the reason we're bluebirds. Like, what? And then, of course, and then we look at And then we get the ending part with Beatrice and don't tell me to eat dirt or whatever, like don't call it that. And she's like, oh, are you going to turn us all into bluebirds again? Like, what is that? Like, what? So there really wasn't, for me, a lot of it was like Beatrice was like what I was really invested in, and like we didn't really get anything there.
Mm-hmm.
So there's just some things I was unsatisfied with, but yeah, a lot of it was that.
So Beatrice in these last two episodes is maybe presented as more of a peg in Wirt's growth journey, rather than like her own, rather than her being the main character.
A mirror to Sarah.
A mirror to Sarah, yeah, for sure.
Because I thought it was very interesting that we don't know what Sarah looks like. Sarah is in the Bumblebee costume, and then she's dressed up in her Halloween costume, and we never see Sarah. We don't see like Sarah fully, which is very interesting. Like that for me, that is the most interesting part of this whole, like outside, like that it's. I say outside. I guess technically the unknown would be the outside, but you know what I mean. Like this whole part that's separate from the unknown. That was the most interesting like aspect of it was for me was that. And that made it a little bit more like okay, and like didn't bother me as much.
Yeah,
that was like a neat.
I agree with that. It was very interesting that Sarah was not. We never saw her face. It makes sense with what the show presents in episode 9, but also just is kind of symbolically something. I didn't connect it necessarily to Beatrice, which is a really good call on your part. We do learn to figure out what Beatrice looks like though. Yes. But not Sarah. Interesting. But I really like not seeing Sarah just on a level of it's not necessarily about getting we're getting the pretty girl at the end, right? It's like we don't even know what she looks like. She's kind of just a figure almost.
And then Jason Fundenberger or whatever is just like the nerdiest person alive, and it's great.
That's also a very essential thing to bring up. Yeah, no, it's very
because when you have a plot like this, you're like, oh, it's some jock football player dude, and then like the pretty girl. But no, we show up. She's the mascot in the band, and then Jason Funderburger's in his suit. Like, what is he even dressed up as? And then like listening to him talk was grating, and I loved it. I was like, this is so great. Where you're such an awkward child.
Yeah, well, it's just a perfect presentation of like the just complete lack of, confidence and place in the world that Wirt had, because he's like, oh, that guy has everything together. And that's what he sees. And what we see is this kind of more nerdy figure rather than the jock figure that we thought he would be.
And like the inversion of like this trope.
Yeah. And it's really effective in just showing how not put together Wirt is, right? If this is what he freaks out at, it seems like he freaks out at everything, and just it's very clear that he's the obstacle, not Jason Funderburger, right?
And it makes it more relatable too, in the way that like this is more like real life, like your friends. It's not like some big rivalry and like whatever.
Yeah,
like it's a smaller group, and it's like.
Yeah, the outside stuff was very relatable. It was more like goth kids than the popular kids, right?
And can we talk about the cop for a minute? Like, what a jerk! Like, really, you dumb cop.
Getting into more specifics on that ninth episode, the cop recurring gag I thought was just incredibly brilliant storytelling, because we see it in the beginning, or not in the beginning, but at some point we have the. You burglars, you're under arrest. Nah, just kidding. Happy Halloween. Is that what his line is? Yeah. And then he does it again, and it's just really funny. I wonder who voices him, the cop, because it kind of sounds like one of the kind of sounds like Alex Hirsch from Gravity Falls. Also, kind of sounds like Justin Roiland from Rick and Morty. So it could. I would predict it would be. It would be the creator of this one, Pat McHale, but not sure. We have to check on that. But yeah, so it has that, and then it's just really funny, and then it comes back and is also funny in a way that it like drives the plot along. That's just, I don't know, to me is really great storytelling. You have the gag, and it's great, and the funniest part of the episode, and then you bring it back and you advance the plot with it, and it works because you had the gag in the beginning.
It literally causes everything, and it's great. This dumb cop.
Yeah. Getting back to your general criticisms, and we'll go over specifics in a minute, is like, I feel you, like, we don't really get too much focus on Greg, and we don't get too much focus on Beatrice especially. I feel like they maybe mishandled Beatrice a little bit. I think she comes across as more of a main character than a side character in in the the rest of the series other than these two episodes. But then she's definitely only a side character at the end. But I'm basically all in on these two episodes. I think that it wasn't what I was expecting, right? Beatrice was a side character. I wasn't expecting that. And this focus on Wirt, but just what we got, I connected to a lot, and I just really loved it. But I can see where you're coming from too.
I mean, I would probably say episode 9 is the best episode. Like, I love episode 9. I just didn't get what I wanted, which is fine.
Yeah.
But because I always want the fantasy, and I was thoroughly shocked that we got what we got. And I like it. Like, I definitely wouldn't say, oh, this ruined Over the Garden Wall for me or anything. Like, I love it, and like it was a good conclusion. It was a surprising conclusion. Like, I mean, I'm always glad if you shock me. That's great. Like, that's why I'm here. Like, I want to watch things and be surprised. I don't want to figure out everything out or like get bored. It just wasn't what I was expecting. It wasn't really what I wanted, but like I still really liked it. I don't want it to sound like I hated it or anything. Like, I really did like it, and these 2 episodes were brilliant.
Yeah, I think it might be better on rewatch for you. Not sure though.
Well, I maybe episode 10 would probably be better on rewatch. Like it was just the last bit where I was kind of like, oh, they were just drowning, okay, and then like it might take me a bit.
I mean, I don't think the show is presenting it as, oh, they were just drowning. I think
no, they weren't.
The show is I think that's just them resurfacing from the unknown.
Yeah,
that was the connection, I guess, to the unknown is the lake. Yeah. But at the same time, there's the interpretation that it was just while they were like blacked out, in the lake too.
Do you know what the name of the cemetery is? Like, do you remember?
Yeah, I think I wrote it down. It's Eternal Garden.
Eternal Garden. Okay.
Yeah, I thought that was significant, but I couldn't figure out how significant it was. Another connection is that there's a Quincy Endicott tombstone in the cemetery too.
Ooh, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Well, then also, I mean, over the garden wall, like.
Oh yeah, so it's a symbolic garden. Okay, there you go. Thank you. I didn't actually think of that.
Because they literally go over the garden wall.
Yeah, but the garden is a cemetery. Okay, so they do go over the garden, and then that's interesting. I guess they had to. Did they come up with the title first and then explain it at the end? I assume so, because it's not like them. It's not like that being the entrance to the unknown is that significant. It's more of just like a side thing.
Well, it makes sense that a cemetery would be.
It's just of all like the Halloween connections and stuff. It works thematically.
Yeah. And of course, I will say I was shocked that like this was all just Halloween. I was like, no way.
Yeah, let's talk about that and start getting into specifics, because I episode 9 is so incredible in that it like fully presents this arc for Wirt and Greg, and just it tells us what happened. I didn't expect to know why. I just did we mention
we got context? Incredible.
I feel like you called these being Halloween costumes at some point. Did you say that?
I said, I mean, it looks, I mean, I might have said something like Wirt. I had no idea why he was wearing a teapot.
Yeah, you said that, but I also think you might have said Halloween costumes. I don't know. I never thought of that. Like, we're going to get, because it's not that, like, it's, like, inconceivable that these are Halloween costumes. I mean, obviously they're terrible costumes, but it's just, how is the show going to present us knowing that these are Halloween costumes, right? And it's like, I just never thought that we'd get this flashback episode. I'm just so satisfied with the storytelling in these last 2, really.
Like, I mean, episode 9 is just incredible, and like, for me, it might be one of the best episodes like I've ever seen of anything. It just completely like blew me away.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's 9 and 7, and then 10. Yeah, 10's also. I mean, it's 9 and 10 are very linked, obviously. It's interesting. I don't know how good it's hard to evaluate that in a vacuum. Episodes like episode 9, because it's just so tied. The brilliance of episode 9 is not obvious on its own. It needs.
You hadn't watched Over the Garden Wall, like you'd be like,
okay. Even with that though, like even if it's just like 3 years later, I go back and watch one episode of the show. If I just watch 9, I'm not going to get the full effect, It's one other general point I want to make is that this series is maybe it's like simultaneously the perfect use of the miniseries format, and it also would be a much lesser show if it was not a miniseries.
Yes.
Like this type of mythological conclusion to a Steven universe would be incredibly unsatisfying. However, since there was only 10 episodes of this miniseries, then I think it works.
And also just the premise, like this whole idea of the unknown, and of course how they wrap it up, like you were saying, like the conclusion, like this something like the unknown would really only works well in something like this. Like you can't go forever with something like the unknown because eventually it has to be known. Like you have to figure it out. But here it's still like miniseries are perfect for the whole like is it like was it real, was it not, what really went on, we don't know, and then like you end it like that's perfect, like, that's how it should be.
I agree. Yeah, I agree with that. If you're gonna have this type of in non-concrete ending, so it's like if Lost was a miniseries, then maybe it wouldn't. I mean, I've never seen the show, but maybe people would have been satisfied with that ending. You know, I feel like that's.
Well, I mean, they had like stopped 2 seasons before Lost.
Okay, like, well, I never watched the show, but yeah, that type of thing, though, right? It's just like we don't get satisfying. Like, it's not that we don't get. Actually, I feel like thematically and like logically, we kind of tie not like real world logic, but like thematic logic. We kind of tie everything together, kind of nicely.
That is the strength of this show, and that's really what I love about it. Is like thematically, the show is perfect.
Yeah. I'm very satisfied with.
They're all tied in neat little bows, and I love it. I'm like, yes, this is what I'm here for.
Yeah, I agree with that. Because
a lot of shows don't. Like, you get themes here. Even Korra, like, there were things in Korra that were, like, we talk about Korra all the time. I really shouldn't do this. But, like, just as an example of a brilliant, animated series. And, like, even thematically, it did work very well, but it wasn't always. But what they do here in every episode is, like, we just have, like, the themes just all run together, and it's great.
This is the anti-Korra Book 2 finale.
I know. This is everything. This is everything that it should have been and wasn't.
Because like this is also kind of abstract like this one, except the abstractness makes sense within the themes of the show, and it is satisfyingly abstract in that regard. The exact opposite of that finale. Yeah. I don't know. I'm just very, very, very pro on this ending overall. Let's get into kind of specifics, I guess. Just in general, we started getting to this. These being their Halloween costumes. So Greg is a elephant because the trunk of the teapot is on his head.
That is brilliant.
I would never have thought of this.
No one would have, and that's why it's so perfect. When he said he was an elephant, I was like, oh, and then I was like, perfect, yes.
Yeah, I can't believe that. I mean, that's how we start off the episode, right? And that's such a satisfying revelation given the past 8 episodes.
And like it's a Santa hat, and
he cut off the things, and then he put on a marching band cloak, when it just further builds his character by the fact that he got this, like his dad got him that, but he didn't end up doing it, I guess that's the implication of stepdad, yeah. So it's like,
really funny because like there's always that trope, the stepdad like wants you to do sports, and we're like, no, just do marching band.
Yeah, the stepdad wants you to do marching band. Yeah.
Like, nothing against marching band. I'm an orchestra kid. I'm just like, that's just really funny to me.
Just the feeling that I got from like these types of things in episode 9, especially the costumes and a few other things as well, was just, it's something rarely experienced. The kind of thematic emotional catharsis from a show like this. I guess that's why I'm one of the big reasons I'm so pro this ending.
Like, I will say, everything comes together neatly. It just didn't come together the way I wanted it to, and that's fine.
Yeah, I know. I've
together perfectly. It's just, does that mean you understand? Like, I can appreciate that it was brilliant, and then I still loved it, but it just wasn't like there's a little bit of a barrier between me and it.
I have for sure felt what you were feeling before. I'm surprised I didn't feel it now. I kind of bought into this ending more than I thought. But I've felt that before, and I think once your expectations kind of lessen and you look back at it again, I think it's better. But at the same time, it doesn't diminish lack of connection to it. Like, there's still going to be a certain element of that there. But
the way we've been watching it, like, I don't know how we're going to release this, but we've watched all of this in essentially a week. Actually, less than that, really.
Yeah, it's been like half a week, yeah.
Yeah, and so, like, there's been a lot of anticipation, and, like, I've been out all day, and I've been trying just to get back into my room so I could watch it and finish it, because I was like, I want to know what happens. I want to know how it ends, because it was really hard, like, restraining, because we have to watch. We can't get ahead of ourselves, and then, like, and it's just like, I just want to watch. I want to know what happens. I want to know what happens. So, like, once I've like chilled and then I'll rewatch, I definitely will be more satisfied. It's just like the whole expectation thing, like you were saying, like just being very amped up about it and excited. And
Yeah.
it's just like when you watch a finale, like anytime when it's airing on TV and like you've just been waiting and waiting and waiting, and then like sometimes it's not very satisfying because like you've had it so built up in your head.
I think Cartoon Network may have aired this kind of in a perfect way because like they did 2 episodes a day for a week. And I don't know, I feel like this is the perfect show to like watch in a week, but you have to like structure, you have to like, it's like, okay, it's not like, it's like at the same time and you know when you're going to watch and stuff like that. So you to avoid this expectation thing. Yeah. Okay, episode 9, more specifics. Sarah in the Bumblebee he makes this tape for Sarah. By the way, I have heard that they are releasing the tape. Cartoon Network is making an actual tape with
his god awful poetry,
with Elijah Wood doing poetry for 20 minutes and then them like recording clarinet. Yeah, that's I think their chorus, but the DVD of this series is coming out like next month, and they're releasing that I think too with that. That's really cool.
I will say I will purchase the DVD for this show, which that is a marker of like I don't want to spend money. I'm a broke college student. No, I want to own this so I could force everyone around me to watch it.
I will not purchase the DVD for the show because DVDs.
Wait, is it going to be on Blu-ray?
I assume so, but actually I don't know because Korra was like the only show that was ever on Blu-ray for Nick, so I'm not sure if this is for Cartoon Network.
Anyway, I'm going to own it.
I will not own it because DVDs are irrelevant, but that's the only reason.
Well, I have a cult for watch things.
It is a very it's much more convenient unless the show is on Netflix. It's going to be easier to DVD it than anything. What do you think of this character, Sarah? I mean, what Sarah moments do we get throughout this? She's the mascot. She's wearing this kind of what would you describe her costume as? Her Halloween costume.
Like a clown skeleton.
Yeah, or like a ghoul or something like that.
Yeah.
She's at the party and she's
very chill, like, you know, we were all probably expecting like, you know, cheerleader, whatever, but no, she's just like chill, like she clearly likes Wirt. Like it's so obvious, Wirt, you idiot.
Because Wirt comes up to her at the party that they go to, and he's like, she's like, "Oh, Wirt, I was hoping you'd come. I just said I hoped you'd come, right?" Yeah.
And she's clearly skeeved out by like Jason.
So. I don't think she's like clearly skeeved out. I just don't think I think she's like obviously not romantically interested in him. And I don't think she's like clearly romantically interested in Wirt, but I think she clearly cares about Wirt. Yeah.
Yeah. Like Wirt doesn't need to be as nervous as he is. Of course, that's the whole point. Like
I kind of was expecting this type of girl. I mean, it's a subversion of the typical trope, but like considering Wirt, like you expect more of like the weird cool girl, you know.
That's true. I mean, he did like Lorna.
Yeah. I mean, Lorna's like the shy, you know, type. I don't think Sarah's like the shy archetype girl.
Well, she's just normal. That's part of what's interesting about it. She's just normal. Like there's nothing like.
She's the girl. I mean, you haven't seen this, but she's the girl from Muriel and the Dying Girl. She's like the you know, the weird, cool, funny, you know, not like the popular archetype, but just this. It's an archetype that's like pretty appealing, I guess. So it's annoying in that regard, but it is real though. I think Sarah seems pretty real.
It's like what's her face from Danny Phantom.
Sam from Danny Phantom.
Sam.
She's like Sam. Yeah, she's like Sam from Danny Phantom. I agree.
Somewhere our Sam is screaming because I couldn't remember her name.
Our Sam, yeah. And she wants Wirt to go to the graveyard with them, and she's like, we should go to the graveyard. What do you think
and not do illegal things?
Yeah, we get this whole thing, really age appropriate drinks, and Wirt's like juice. That was great. Yeah. I don't know. Overall, Sarah, do you like her? She seems like incredibly developed considering she was in 1 1/5 episode. You know.
I mean, I like her just fine.
Yeah, I think
I'm not gonna hold the trope against her.
It's interesting because her trope is like a subversion of a trope, but that in itself is a trope now. So I don't. Yeah, no.
It's like in tropeception. Like that's what.
The show is certainly not above tropes. I will say that, but it really uses tropes in kind of an appealing way. Yes. I feel like a lot of critics, I was starting to look at past reviews of it, feel like it's underwritten. I think that's kind of one of the appeals of this show.
That's kind of the point.
Yeah. So like Korra book
And
two,
a lot of what. Sorry, go ahead.
like Korra, like books 1 or 2 at points were like badly underwritten. It's like we get expository dialogue in kind of a grating way. The show never does that. It just Tenzin, yeah, exactly. This show doesn't do things like that. It's underwritten, but it's subtle in presenting its developments, even if those developments are not a lot.
It's the visual. That's the whole point. It's like it's visual.
It's a very visual show, yeah.
Which sounds dumb, but like that's what it is.
It's like all animation's visual, obviously, but no, this one it's more essential to the storytelling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which that reminds, like, I wanted to say that I think episode 10 is one of the most visually stunning at the experience of watching episode 10 like blew me away. Like the light and like the lantern.
Them playing with the light from the lantern is pretty pretty incredible.
And like when they when it's just dark and then you have Beatrice and Wirt and there's a light up ahead, like that scene, I was just like, oh my god. And it reminds me, there's this video game that I cannot remember what it's called. It's like Cave Boy or something, like, I don't know, it's a horror game and you just kind of
Cave Boy.
I'm pretty sure I just made that up, but like there's something like that, and like I really love those kinds of things, like those little kind of indie like dark games that are like, and that's what this is, and I love it. Like I would love that visual design and like playing with light like that. It was great.
This reminds me of a game too. It was this Wii game. It was this Wii horror game. I'm trying to remember what it's called, but the 10th episode does great things with light. More things from episode 9. We talked about Jason Funderburger, the perfect name for a frog, as it turns out.
So good.
That was really good.
I'm glad we had the conclusion with the frog too.
What you are the frog name master. What is your opinion on this conclusion?
I mean, that was one quality, because Jason Funderburger is the perfect name for a frog. Like, it is. And then also, like, the fact that, like, Wirt's, like, sworn enemy, and they just named the frog that.
Yeah, it's pretty...
Jason... And they say his name so many times, it's hilarious.
It's great, yeah. We talked about Jason Funderburger a lot in terms of, like, a subversion and, like, how it plays into Wirt's confidence and stuff. And that's the main thing, I guess, I want to talk about with Jason Funderburger. But also with him was something that I'm forgetting. But I don't know. He's...
He kind of reminded me of a Hey Arnold character, but I don't know which one. I just thought he should have been in Hey Arnold.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was about him.
Anyway, I'll come back if I remember that. But we had him, we had that, what do you think of just, like, okay, so I guess another thing that we haven't talked about yet in terms of what episode 9 presents is it, like, brings this into reality, right? We talked about how where these... Presumably they're just coming from the real world, but we kind of speculated on that a lot, and episode 9 kind of clearly presents us as coming from some type of modern age time.
Yeah.
And it's just very jarring after being in the unknown for so long.
And what's interesting is we really don't, it's not really settled. Like, we know they're in a modern time, but, like...
There's something to me that indicated that it was maybe the current... What was that? I'm not sure. But, yeah.
I mean, we had the very stereotypical, like, square cartoon cops tape. Like, who has a tape?
Oh, yeah, that was it, actually. Yeah, that was good call. It indicates that we're sometime within the past 10 years or so, because the big thing with Sarah is that she's, I can't play this, right? It's like, Wirt, you nerd. Obviously, you're the only one that has a cassette player.
You're the only one. It's just you.
That I thought was very good, because that's like...
He records music and poetry on his tape.
Oh
like,
my
really?
God, what a nerd. Yeah. In a great way. But,
it's like the mixtape idea ever, and I love it.
It was really, that reveal was really great, because it's like, that totally makes sense for Wirt being so caught up in himself, and it makes sense for like
he's the annoying hipster who's
it's the annoying hipster. It's also like this great conclusion to this, him worrying about her playing this ape. Greg in this episode a lot of times is like reveals Wirt's position, right? That happens twice, I guess, and it's really adorable and stuff. And it's just like, it's like the Wikipedia summary, I feel like kind of perfectly encapsulated. It's like he unwittingly or something at the graveyard. He's like unwittingly reveals that Word is there, but it's not. He like
he's wearing a giant.
well, he's wearing the giant hat, but he points to him, right? But at the same time, he's not like capable of conceptualizing that he shouldn't say that when they ask him straight up. Yeah, I think that's very obviously presented, and it's really good. And Greg's characterization throughout this whole thing,
and just that Greg just wants a frog, which is just precious.
Yeah, that's his whole motivations. Yeah.
And then he stole the rock. Oh my god, I almost wanted to cry. I was like, no, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, he's not mad at you.
He stole the rock from old lady, what's her face, yeah.
I forgot.
It was
it starts with a D, that's all I remember.
Miss Old Lady Daniels, yeah. And Greg in this episode, great. What haven't we talked about? Sarah's other kids in the school. Interesting, I guess. I don't know. I assume they're from a school. They're not actually at a school.
It's like they kind of run into like but you would think it's the popular kids, but no, they're clearly just like Wirt's. The other kids Wirt knows, and they're just like, yeah, we'll just put the mixtape in her jacket. It wasn't even malicious. Like they were just like, you better do it before.
I mean, the main one was kind of being teasing, but it wasn't like malicious.
But it wasn't like. They weren't like they were making fun of him in the way that like I would make fun of one of my friends. I'd be like, you like her, yeah, okay, like that's what you would do. Like,
and it seems and that's the further thing with Word. It's just this episode does such a good job of presenting that he is his own problem, because like here like kind of somewhat seemingly popular girls, and they're like perfectly nice to Word, right? Like it's not like they're not the problem here. It's not the people around him. It's him.
They didn't even destroy the tape. They were trying to help him out. They're like, we put it in the jacket.
It's like they're teasing him, but they're like, oh, hey, Wirt, like it was very friendly. Everyone knows you're an egg, Rondi, right? That was the best line. that was Why is she dressed up as an egg? That's the one unrealistic.
But I really like that was such a Mean Girls. Everyone knows you're an egg. I enjoyed that.
When Sarah and her friends are walking into. Sarah's talking with the taller girl who I guess is holding hands with Funderburger at the end, indicating that he's moved on, right? It's kind of subtle, but Sarah says, you're limiting the universe to only things humans could understand. And then the girl says, no, you're limiting the universe by limiting the possibility of human understanding. And Sarah's like, oh yeah, maybe.
It's so good.
What a perfect conversation for this type of kid group, right? Yeah. What do you think they're talking about?
That's the great part. Like, there's no context.
It
doesn't matter.
What I immediately think of is the possibility of alien life, right? Because this is what Sarah says is always my line. It's
like if you had told me a word or like a phrase, I would have just been like Doctor Who, like aliens, like that's what I meant.
Well, no, it's because I feel like they're talking about aliens because like whenever someone says, oh, there's no planets with water, it's like, why are we looking for water? You're limiting the universe to only things humans can understand, right? Yeah. So like life existing without water. So I feel you, Sarah, in that moment, in that conversation. You're me there.
Or even the unknown.
Were they discussing the unknown here? That's a good question. Yeah, maybe they were discussing the unknown. I didn't really think of it like that, but that's possible. Yeah.
Well, because I'm curious, like, what did they think of like? Because obviously the cop was just like, don't go over there, you're going to fall and die, you derp. Like, don't go over there, like, stop. You're going to get hurt. It's a really high wall. Like, they jumped from, like, really high up and they didn't break anything.
It seems like the hill was, like, lower on the other side, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so I'm just thinking, like, is there a thing of, like, not going over there? Is there any, like, context?
No.
Part?
There's no context.
Also, I thought they were going to get hit by a train. I was going to cry. Like, I was like, oh my God. Like, I was really freaked out.
Yeah, like, it was very well presented, kind of striking.
So I was like, oh my God, was I right? Were they really just dead the whole time or like dying? But no, I'm like, good. They didn't get hit by a train.
Yeah.
I thought Greg had just got hit and I was like, I can't handle this. But it was fine.
Yeah, they're fine. They just drowned. That's okay.
They just drowned. That's it.
The other things that I wanted to point out were, I already said it about, where it says that Greg is ruining his life and his stepdad. It's about... It
seems like Greg and stepdad are perfectly fine people.
Yeah, which the episode, again, presents pretty well. And it's just really Greg kind of just being in his own, or Wirt being in his own head.
When it's a typical situation, like with like a stepdad or something like that.
Yeah, it's kind of a subversion of the evil stepdad type thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
stepdad's kind of okay, and he's
Yeah.
not like annoying about it. He's just
He
like,
bought him the marching band thing because
yeah.
I don't know. And at the end of this episode, we get the Beatrice scene with Wirt, or Beatrice's family, Wirt and Jason Funderburker the frog, and eat some dirt. Of note is that Wirt calls the frog Guy. He does not. He does not participate in his silly names. Yeah.
Silly names.
And at the end, he says, "I was never any good to him alive either." Talking about Greg. There's a line before that makes sense.
Oh, it hurt.
Context,
it hurt my chest.
Yeah. So just, gosh, everything. I think this episode is basically perfect.
Also, it was really funny that I was like, why are there so many birds? Like, geez, and then at the end, it's like the Weasleys.
Why are there so many birds? No, yeah, there's so many.
Wow. I was waiting. I was like,
there's a lot. Yeah, you're right. It is like the Weasleys. You're right. You're right. For context, we're very good friends, but
oh, we hate each other.
Episode 10. Yeah. Anything else from episode 9 specifics? Yeah. We talked about it for like 50 minutes, so that's okay. Episode 9. It starts off with Greg being told by the Beast he needs to get a honeycomb comb, a spool.
He needs a golden comb.
A golden comb. And he needs to put sun into the cup. What is going on here, right? We know what the episode is like. So what happens is that Greg like waits for the sun to get into the cup, and then he like fuses into the tree.
I thought it was just like he was just doing riddles, and he would think it would take him longer to solve the things. But Greg's really clever.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, and like he's clever in a very little kid way, and which is what's adorable about him. And then. So what I took it as, especially at the end, was that he was like, "Yes, wait for the cup." It was just about exhausting him, so he turned into the tree.
Yeah. Initially, when you're watching it for the first time, it like works well as kind of a thematic introduction to like these mythological elements that we're going to be exploring in this episode. But ultimately, these things are irrelevant. That Greg is getting the Beast, so it seems like the conclusion is that the Beast just wants Greg to sit at the tree stump so that he can get turned into the Applewood tree.
And it's very much with, like, the Beast's kind of shtick, where he's like, oh, your soul, it's trapped in whoever you like, their soul's trapped in there.
He just makes up a lot of stuff, yeah.
Yeah, like, it's very, like... Which is also funny, because we take, like, the really scary mythological creature, and he just, like, makes stuff up.
Well, that's what's great about the Beast. He's very, like, psychologically evil. It doesn't seem like he has any strength. And in fact...
He's a scarecrow character.
Yeah, and in fact, when we do see his forum, if you click those links, Delaney, it's he's basically I would describe it as like a human without the skin on it, kind of.
Yeah, that's what it.
So let's talk about this. They briefly flash over him, and I had to pause it like to see the specifics. His body is made up of faces, presumably the souls that he is consumed through the Applewood trees. Yeah, and. I was very much on, I want to see what the Beast looks like and stuff like that. And we only very briefly get it. And I think it works really well in the episode because the Beast ends up being, like, not that important. Thematic, like, in terms of Greg's or Wirt's development and thematically for the show. So I really liked how they presented this.
Definitely. It doesn't matter what he looks like because he's irrelevant.
He's not, yeah, he's irrelevant. He's irrelevant as long as, like, Wirt finds himself, yeah.
Yeah. But it was still interesting, and he still had the creepy, like, he didn't have a Lorax mustache, unfortunately.
No Lorax mustache.
The one thing I was wrong about in this entire show was that he didn't have a Lorax mustache.
I mean, the big thing okay, time to call you out on last.
I was hoping you'd forget, but then I just had to go and ruin it all.
Last podcast, you said that Beatrice and the Woodsman's daughter would be the same person, and that is wrong. So there you go.
I mean, I still predicted kind of that the Lantern was the Beast.
I think you probably said that. We were both wrong about Beatrice turning human in a crucial moment. That did not happen.
She didn't sacrifice herself either.
Yeah, she did turn human though. But yeah, there's one of the interesting plot threads is that we don't get a connection between the Woodsman and really anything.
Yeah, no, the Woodsman I think it's kind of neat though, because like it's he's the really lost one. Like he's the one who's
Yeah.
been there for the lost,
Yeah.
and then and we do get a conclusion from him at the end though, which I think is nice. It's kind of like he kind of had his own little like story.
Yeah,
Like
I mean, the only thing is that, like, he's very important in that moment where where Wirt is about to take the Bastille, because he's Wirt's future in that moment. So, that's kind of the connection, I guess, but it's very brief.
when it's kind of and I think that is important because like we don't know how long the Woodsman been lost, but like clearly his daughter was like had missed him and was like, and he had just been he was just looking for his daughter.
Yeah.
And there's no time, we don't know how much time has passed or like how much time he's lost with his daughter, and then to kind of be like Wirt, like he would have lost, growing up and like being in high school and things.
Yeah. I agree. So
I think the weakness maybe is just that for Wirt, we know it's his insecurity and his confidence, but I guess in this case, the Woodsman's flaw is his love for his daughter, but we just don't really know what like started that, which I
that's
think
a
would
good
be
point.
a little better.
We don't see the Woodsman as a weak character, right? So why is he lost, and why is he got lost in the beast, I guess. It's like maybe anyone can get lost into this conceptual beast,
Yeah.
Greg's now in that old tree, and they find him, and he says that he just was eating leaves when he coughs up.
That was great.
Yeah.
Because I was like, there's that one moment you're like, this got dark quick, but
Yeah.
no.
He stole the rock from Mrs. Daniels' garden, the rock facts. We had the rock fact thing in past episode too. I like that we got the origin of the rock facts. And we have
Yeah, no, me too. I was like, yes, they're here.
Yeah, and that's when we get the Jason Thunderbird perfect rock name. The Beast confronts Wirt, and one of my favorite things is that Wirt's kind of like has this epic defiance to the Beast.
So sassy.
And his like voice cracks as he's doing this.
Yeah, it's so
And
great.
I love it. That's just so good, so good. Because he's like gaining his confidence here, and at the same time he's still like a young teenager, right?
Yep, and he doesn't like trip him up. Like it's not that moment where like
that's not enough to he's gotten past that through this journey. Yeah. And he figures that the Beast has an obsession with keeping the lantern lit, and that his soul's in the lantern.
And I just love how this show's like, why don't we just do this really obvious thing? Like honestly, God, like like they present it like with it's like Greg being like, yeah, Lorna's the evil like eating people, and then like the bell, and like they just take these things and they just make it like so obvious, and I love it.
I definitely didn't see this coming, but it's not because it was.
It's just how they present it. Like when like in that moment where everything is revealed, they make it like sound like it was so obvious because the characters are so sassy, and I love it.
Yeah, it's like you could have totally predicted this, but like, why would you think that it would be something so simple, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like before this podcast we'd only see the first 8, and watching the first 8, I don't think it's obvious that the show is going to wrap up in Wirt's arc. And you need to, and unless you know that it's going to wrap up with everything being about Wirt, then you're not going to expect a simplistic ending from the Beast. You're going to think a bigger role from the mythology of the show, because that's what it's always been hinting at. That's kind of the brilliance of the ending, is that that none of that's really important. It's about how Wirt relates to it, the main character.
Or even like the journey home, like
Yeah, that journey home is more important too, right? Yeah.
But then they were always home. Like they went to the unknown, but it's like, were they really?
Yeah,
like they were lost, but did they actually get home?
I mean,
like,
that ends up really not mattering, because they just we don't see them. Even though the show presents the unknown as having happened, we don't see them leave it. Right? That's not important according to the show.
Yeah, no, it's not. But but I thought it was interesting because like there's so much emphasis on them going home, which I guess that's kind of the whole idea though, of stringing us along and being like, yeah, they're lost.
Yeah, I think of
literally lost.
I do think the show kind of strings the audience along.
Which is good. I do that.
It's in a way, but it's risky. But in this case, it pays off a lot. I think
it's not in like a annoying or like stupid way. Like they do it very effectively, and like and especially like we said in this miniseries format, like this is the epitome of what a miniseries should be. Like this is what it's supposed this is what it's supposed to be like.
Yeah, it's like they go through this one. It's like this one show for 8 episodes, and then it's something else for the last 2. But it's something else in a way that there's elements from the first 8 that work really well. But it's also like it's not like they tricked you in the show that it was is not what it was, because the events of the first 8 episodes are still wrapped around that initial
Yeah.
concept, right?
And we even have the hint with Greg saying like, yeah, we're talking about the time you kind of like, was he talking about the unknown? Was he talking about like him being a hero? Like what was Greg talking about? That
Oh
kind of
yeah,
idea.
true. We
And the
get
frog had a hat, which I don't know where he got the top hat.
the
But
frog was the one singing at the end.
yeah, but did he have a top hat when he was singing? I think he did.
I probably, yeah. He's
And
on
then
the
when
piano.
he's holding the frog, he has a top hat.
Yeah. We get the resolution with Beatrice, which is between Beatrice and Wirt, which is them hugging. And Wirt's the one that had the scissors, not Beatrice. We thought Beatrice would have the scissors.
Yeah, but no, Wirt.
Interesting.
Wow, Wirt, you jerk.
He makes
He
it.
had them the whole
He had them
time.
the whole time. He was just mad at her, right?
Yeah,
Aw.
but that's really funny and like typical. Like that's also been their relationship the entire time.
Yeah, that's true. And it's also it also makes sense that the show makes it make sense, because he's like, how did we escape? Because that's true. That was unresolved. So there you go.
And of course they cut the yarn. Duh.
How about this? I'm very happy that we did not have a Beatrice Wirt romantic ending.
I was about to say the same thing.
Yeah, I like that this is what it was. I would have liked them to have hugged as humans, but I don't know. At the same time, this is good too.
Beatrice.
Yeah, more Beatrice is the main thing. But in terms of Beatrice and Wirt, I feel like this is definitely good ending.
Definitely.
And then Wirt's like, Woodsman, you handle the beast, and they just leave.
Yeah.
And then the
Like,
Woodsman blows it
your
out. Yeah, and the Woodsman blows it out, and then they resurface at the lake. There you go. How about the idea that the Woodsman actually is future Wirt? Because I'm just thinking about this now, because the Woodsman, gets rid of the beast, and then Wirt and Greg appear home. So so it's like the Woodsman vanquishing the beast is the same thing as Wirt vanquishing the beast. So maybe that the Woodsman is like alternate universe Wirt type thing.
Yeah, I mean that would make sense, and especially since he's the woodsman, like he's the master of the woods. So that would just make sense, like thematically.
It would just like make sense, like thematically, yeah.
Well,
True.
I mean, do you know what I mean?
Like, true.
God, like I hate it when you do this.
I don't know. I don't think the show's presenting that to us, but maybe that's I think that's an.
But like the whole idea of like he's the woodsman, and it's like, and the forest. I mean, it's the unknown, and like, it's literally a forest. Like it's been presented the entire time. It's the forest, and the woodsman. He's the master of the woods. Like no one knows the woods better than the woodsman, and like that makes sense that he would defeat the beast. Like he's tamed the forest. He's
Yeah.
like so.
Yeah. And it's like now that the beast is gone and he has finished his thing, that maybe the forest doesn't even exist anymore or something like that, although we do see them live at the end. But in terms of Wirt, it doesn't, because the woodsman's connected to Wirt.
Yeah.
And then we have the epilogue of them in the hospital. Sarah, there's our Jason Funderburger says our frog, and Greg's no, not your frog, after being confused that's his name. Sarah doesn't have a tape player. They'll listen at his house, but he needs to work up to that.
That was really funny.
Probably a good call.
Yes, no, definitely a good call.
What else from this epilogue before we go through the cast of characters?
Greg looked adorable. His teacup was gone, and his hair. Like,
Oh
was
yeah,
precious.
yeah, it was precious. Yeah.
I just want to cuddle Greg.
Aw.
Just want to hug him.
Yeah.
He's adorbs.
I don't know. It was
I mean,
kind of short.
it was really great when Wirt was like Greg when he woke up, and that was just precious.
Yeah, it was precious. It's like Greg's not
And
mad.
also, the frog had a blanket on it, like earlier in the ambulance, which I thought was great.
Oh, he had a shock blanket on.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that.
No, because he was. But you did notice, or you didn't?
I didn't notice that. No.
It was because it was Greg, and then Wirt, and then the frog was with Wirt, and it had a blanket on it.
Nice. One thing is that Greg never mad at Wirt, despite Wirt being mean to Greg. Yeah, Greg just always
Greg's just.
He's like it turns out Greg is maybe more of a symbol of innocence rather than too much of a main character.
He's literally the precious cinnamon roll. Too good.
Yeah,
Too pure.
he is the embodiment of the cinnamon roll. I mean, I feel like that's maybe I think feel like is one of your biggest criticisms of this ending, and maybe one of the biggest ones in general, is that this ending presents Wirt as a real character and then everyone else not really as a real character.
Yeah.
Which I was fine with, but I also see how that's not something that someone would be fine
Especially
with.
since like I love Greg. He's precious.
Yeah.
He's very much like Steven in Steven Universe. Like, I mean, he's just
Yeah,
one of
but
those
Steven
kind of
has like important moments and stuff. I mean,
Well,
Greg was
I mean-
like, there's a ton of Greg moments, but like he was inconsequential in the end,
Yes,
in
which
terms
is-
of the resolution, which is I don't know.
I mean, well, he's kind of. I mean, I mean, I guess. I mean, we could say that he is like, in little ways, he helps Wirt like figure.
Well, yeah, he helps Wirt figure him. Yeah, he helps Wirt figure himself out, but like that's the thing. He's an auxiliary to Wirt. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. Again, as for me, it's not a criticism. Like I'm completely fine with how it ended, but I also understand if that is. But let's go through the montage of characters. We have so first we have the bell and the frog. Like I said, before we cut away to the montage, there Greg is like ringing the frog, he's shaking the frog, and the bell rings. So to be clear, like. This indicates that the Auntie's Whisper's bell is still in him, and that if the object from there is still true there, then it would say
Then
that
they
it's
actually
real.
went. Like everything actually happened.
Yeah, which is what the show is trying to present. Even if it's kind of a throwaway, even if I think we both agree, though, honestly, it doesn't really matter, though.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Matter.
We have the Woodsman and his daughter. I think his daughter looks a lot like Wirt, by the way, which I guess makes sense.
I didn't notice that.
I mean, they have the
Well, I guess
same.
the nose-
They have the same
the
nose, but a lot of the characters have that nose. I guess I'm not sure. I feel
No,
like
they don't.
Didn't Lorna have that nose?
No,
I feel
they
like
have
she.
different shapes.
Oh, it's a 2-dimensional shape, but it's a different shape. Okay, I see.
No, like I don't. Her nose was. I don't think her nose was the same.
The Woodsman's daughter or Lorna?
Lorna.
Okay, interesting.
I mean, I could be wrong.
I mean, we can look back on it as we go, but because we do
Like
get.
I would like this. This sound like I was paying attention to nose shapes because like I am obsessed with Wirt's character design, and like I would just like I love all the character designs, but like I'm obsessed with Wirt's, and like I paid a lot of attention to characters' noses because they're interesting.
I was paying attention to nose shapes. Delaney 2015.
Yes,
That's the takeaway here. But
it is.
we have the Woodsman and the daughter. We have the fish. Okay, here's how I wrote this in the outline. The fisherman fishes turtles.
Oh my god.
Do you agree? That's
Yes.
what
I
happened.
hate that you did it that way. But
The
yes.
fisherman fishes turtles. Yeah, I mean that's what happens. I love that also tied things together. It's like, what were those turtles for? Oh, turtles are fish in this world, and the fisherman is not a fish. Okay, I see.
I'm glad we finally cleared that one up.
Yeah, I didn't know, so that was good that they had that. We had Lorna and Auntie, the fave characters, and we had the frog still in the mud from episode 5 or whatever. We'd end the Endicott lady, I forget her name, with a picture of Endicott.
So maybe he died, which would tie back to
Yeah, which that's maybe what it's implying. I don't know. We had
Well,
figures.
you said there was a headstone.
Yeah, there was a headstone in the real world, and we don't. Yeah,
Ooh, all these connections.
all these connections. There's figures of all the people. What are the figures from?
I can't think of anything of like why they're there.
Is it from? I mean, we'll go over that. Okay, let's keep going. Then
I mean, we could think about it. If
we'll check off the episodes. Basically, is what I want to do. We have the teacher, her dad, and the animals at a circus. Did they say that they're going to a circus in that episode?
I have no recollection.
Yeah, good. We're very on top of things here, me included. We have.
But, I mean, I don't think. I mean, I was shocked they were at the circus.
Why were you shocked they were at this?
Well, I was just like, why are they at the circus?
Okay, I see what you're saying. We had the giant
I
pumpkin
wasn't like,
leader.
oh my god, it's a circus.
We had the pumpkin leader, and then we actually saw skeletons in the pumpkins for once. And then we had Beatrice and her family, who are literally the Weasleys. You're right, because she is red.
They're literally the
red-haired. Yeah,
Weasleys.
they are literally. Does that mean she's Ginny?
Yes, she's Ginny.
Okay, so she's
She
my.
has to be. She's our favorite, so obviously she's
She's
Ginny.
my fave now. That's what that means. And then we have the frog singing, and then we have the rock at the end. The
Yes.
rock.
I'm
facts
glad we
rock.
ended up.
Rock facts rock. Okay, let's check off the episodes on this montage. The first episode, I guess, is the Woodsman and his daughter. I guess Hard Times at the Huskinby. That's the pumpkin. Schooltown Follies. We get the teacher. Songs of Dark Lantern. Is that the one with the figures? Are there figures in the tavern?
I can't think of it.
I'm going to assume that's true, because then we have Mad Love, we have the Endicott, we have Lullaby and Froggen, we have the Frogs in the Mud. Ringing of the Bell, we had the two. Lorna and Auntie. Babes in the Woods, that's the one where we're with the giant fish. Yeah. And Into the Unknown's like the finale part 1, so I guess we don't have anything from that. But I guess Beatrice maybe counts for that episode, yeah. So I guess that they're from the tavern. That's my guess. But we'd have to rewatch.
I really don't remember figures.
I don't
know. They just dance and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, they do, but that's true.
Because I was thinking it could also be like the Woodsman. Like, it would make sense that he like carves things. And like, what if he carved the figures?
Yeah, true. What does the oil end up being?
It's just oil.
We learn what the whatever wood is, but what's the Addlewood? Why is he the oil? Why is he making oil from trees and stuff?
To keep the light burning.
Yeah, but that's from the Addlewood trees. What about the normal trees?
The normal trees. He doesn't. We don't ever see him. The only normal tree he chops down that we watch him chop down is when he tries to warn Wirt.
Oh, okay. I see.
Oil.
So you're saying all the oil in his thing is from Addlewood trees. Okay.
Yeah, it is, because when he's in the box, he's like, yeah, it's the red. Like it's differentiated by color. The red, that's the Addlewood, and then like when Beatrice slams into that tree and like it. And we see the branches move over whoever was laying there. Was it Beatrice? I don't remember. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was Beatrice. Like those that he was cutting down an Addlewood tree.
Yeah.
But you might want to go back and look. There might have been a face in it. Like the Addlewood tree was someone.
Yeah,
because now we know all the souls from the Addlewood tree.
Looking back on it now, yeah. Okay. Anything else from that ending?
It was great.
Anything specific? I don't think so. I think I covered it all.
I think we've.
What do you think of what do you think of that blog? It's after they get out of the lake, I feel like it's kind of perfect.
I mean, it's not what I wanted, but I do like it, and I think it's perfect. Like from the show standpoint and like thematically, it's perfect.
Yeah. Not yawning at you. Just
sure, yeah.
I don't know, this is one of our longer podcasts, so there you go. Okay, wrapping things up. So I know I'm higher than you on the finale. What's rank your top 3 episodes from the series, I guess?
9. Shoot. Probably the pumpkins. I actually think I might. It's like 9, then 9 Songs of the Dark Lantern, and then the pumpkins.
Okay.
Just favorites. Just my favorite episodes. Top, like the best episodes are probably like 9, 10, and then like the first or second episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm on either 9 or 7. I love 7 and 10. So like 9, 7, 10 being the top 3. Series overall. So like let's go through the episodes, right? Episode 1 is really good, and it's really well done visually and everything. Episode 2 is also very good. It's very creepy, but it's not necessarily anything of consequence. Episode 3 is kind of cute. It's kind of cute and it's good. 4 is quite good, I think. It's framed very well and stuff like that. Oh, yeah. 5 is another cute, nice one.
That's one of your faves.
What, 5? 5 is one of my faves. Yeah. 6. Is maybe for me was too cutesy, the first half of 6, but it's still also ultimately good. No, not the dream. The frogs on the boat.
Oh no, I love the frogs.
For me, that's like the lowest point. Maybe, I don't know though. Awesome. 7 is incredible. 8 is the dream is maybe too cutesy, but the rest of it is very good. 9 is absolutely incredible, and 10 is for me a perfect ending to the show.
That reminds me, actually, there's another theme. They are continuously almost freezing to death, which of course ties to them being in the cold water.
In the cold lake. Yeah, that's true.
And Wirt does fall into like a cold lake and gets fished out. So
yeah, he falls into a lake within the lake that they're.
And it's interesting that like this is obviously Halloween, then like it's always winter.
It's always winter. Yeah. Even though it's
Did you
kind
hear
of
my?
fall. No. Okay, overall, what do you think of the series? How do you compare it to, how would you try to compare it to kind of a long form show?
Well, I think it's hard to because honestly, a long-term show is kind of at a disadvantage because this is like an incredible miniseries and like how it's handled and part of what is brilliant about it is that it's a miniseries. But I definitely wouldn't like I'm not saying like this is better than like any long term or that like but or that it's lesser than any long term simply because of its format, but I mean this is definitely up there with things like like people like if you like Steven Universe and you like if you like good cartoons, over watch Over the Garden Wall. Like it's amazing, it's incredible. And what's interesting about Over the Garden Wall, it's not so much what happens, it's the experience of watching Over the Garden Wall, which I think is something that we miss a lot today in like watching anything. Like it's like it doesn't like yeah, it's the plot. Like we were talking about, it doesn't matter if it happened or not. What's important is that like we went on this adventure with Bert and Greg and like everything that happens and like it's the experience of watching the show for the first time that's important, not like what happens, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Which I think is like that's what's so incredible about this show is just the experience of watching it. And like because like Cora, love Cora. Cora's great. Cora's not necessarily an experience. Like it's about what happens in well, I would say like Cora is like, I mean Cora's like I love Cora. It's incredible. It's one of my favorite thing ever, but like it's not like it's there the things that, what makes Cora special isn't like the experience of watching Cora. It's Cora like the show and like the plot and what happens in Cora.
Cora's very plotty. So are almost every show these days. This is I agree with you. This is more of it's a visual experience. It's a thematic experience, and I also think it's a character experience, which is the part I really connect to. Eventually, it ends up being with Word, and it's very striking comparing to a lot of other even a show like Adventure Time, which is sometimes it's similar to this in that it doesn't have these continuous plot elements and stuff, like even less continuous plot elements than Steven Universe, and this is like kind of Adventure Time at its best, I would say. This show, it's like Adventure Time at its best is very thematic, sentimental, character focused, and it's like let's condense Adventure Time to like mostly the 10 best episodes, and then I feel like, and not only that, but you can focus the overall story and the overall themes in a very tight unit. And like so, like Over the Garden Wall is going to compare extremely favorably to any long form show because it lacks the flaws of like lacks the flaws of it. But that being said, I also think it like lacks the high points to a certain extent. What's incredible to me,
you don't have the high highs and the low lows.
Yeah, I think that's mostly true, but I also think the end is the show is a high, which is which I feel like is the very strong point of this miniseries overall is that despite not having the build up to Cora's character like in Cora, you still get something analogous to a Cora Alone and the ends of book 3, right? You still get these emotional moments with Word, even though Word's 10 times less the character than Cora is. The show is so good thematically and so good visually that you still have this kind of experience with it. And I think that it makes for a very, very good miniseries overall. I can't say it's one of the best series I've seen because it's not comparable, I feel like, to longer form series, but it's extremely good. At times it's just good. It's not necessarily always very good, but overall the experience of watching it is it turns out to be really great, and I can totally see why people are really in love with it. And I think that it was probably one of the best animation things to come out last year. I think if Korra wasn't the 2 best seasons of Korra didn't air last year, then it would have been the best animation thing on television. And just overall, I think as I've expressed throughout this podcast, I really connected with this ending. I really connected with this overall. I think it's really great, and I really look forward to future work from Pat McHale. I was going to look up what he's doing next. But this is also kind of a collaboration of a lot of great talents at Cartoon Network too. Pat McHale, only 31. Wow, that's like Alex Hirsch. Yeah.
Well, we could talk about you're talking about comparing we had Korra and 2 seasons of Korra last year. Well, we could also this. I mean, obviously it's a series, it's a season, it's it happened. But I hesitate. I would rather call it an event. This was an animation event. Like that's what the experience. For me. That's why this was such an experience. Like this was an event. Like what this was, which I think definitely makes it. That's part of why it's so hard to compare to something like Korra, because Korra was a constant for so long, but this was just kind of like a blurb and it happened. And it's kind of like, were you there or were you not? And so.
Yeah, and I think it really just works really well. It works really well as itself overall. It needs to be a miniseries, and for a miniseries, it's also really great, like as itself.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I don't want more. Like, and if there ever will be more, I'll be upset. Like, this is what I want. Just stick it like this.
Yeah, I agree. I'm very satisfied overall. I think it was very good. It's like, I don't know, grading series overall. You can almost look at this as an episode, right? The series is only 100 something minutes long. It's, I don't know, for me this is like a solid A, not an A plus, but an A.
I'd give it a definite A.
It's like a solid like 9.6 on my grading scale from Korra. if you listen to the podcast. It's like, like 9.5 is like best of the best, and this is like slightly better than that too. But it's not quite up there with the best things of all time. But that's
not a 10, but
it's not as like a 9.6. Like I was very into it. Yeah, I don't know. Closing thoughts.
It's just incredible, and I wish we had more things like this. Like I want more animation events. Like I want more things like this that are just self-contained, and you watch it and you're like, yes, this is great. And miniseries, like it's just great. Like this format is just wonderful.
This is also, I think, this miniseries is like a credit to Cartoon Network because,
definitely,
like all the talent there, but also just the fact that they're able to get this up and running, get the talent necessary to create like only a 10 mini episode type thing, and do it with presumably not too many resources, right? I assume they didn't allocate a ton of money to this, but like you bring in Cole Sanchez from Adventure Time, you bring in I don't remember who else did it for now, but these people from their other existing shows, which Pat McHale worked with previously, and you bring in a few regulars who always work on them. You bring in Pendleton Ward to do an episode. That's true. Pendleton Ward like storyboard an episode, and you just have this system in which you can kind of like bring like bring together a lot of talent and to do this. Like basically what I'm trying to do is I'm like thinking like this is a great format for Mike and Brian if they ever want to get back into animation. But Nick has nothing like... I don't think Nick would be able to do this, though, for them. Like, Mike and Brian had to build their own team from the bottom up there. Nick, they wouldn't be able to pull in things from like, equally good series and have, like, an existing room set up, because there are no equally good series at Nick. Like, there's some talent over at TMNT, and they could maybe, get some people from there, but there's no existing structure. They would have to just do everything over again.
And Cartoon Network in a way is kind of like, obviously the shows are different, but like the kind of animation and the kind of shows that Cartoon Network are airing is like, that's like, it makes sense that they can do something like this because they kind of overlap, they kind of work. Like,
there's a lot of uniformity between all of their shows. Yeah. Like all of their shows are the same length, this 11-minute format, and all of them are kind of built around Adventure Time now, right? And you've had people who've worked on multiple shows, and it allows them to like cross over shows, right? Like Steven Universe and
Uncle Grandpa.
Yeah, so it seems like a really great animation place to be at right now if you're a talented animation
and like
artist.
Nickelodeon had like Korra, and then they have like TMNT and like maybe like SpongeBob, but like and then
the Nick Animation Studios are actually like a great place to like culminate talent. Like all of my problems with Nick are on the corporate side, not on the animation side. In New York, but there's no. It seems like everything's too much of a separate thing to do this type of thing.
That's what I meant. Like you have these things that are like they're not like they couldn't mesh well together. The last time we had something like this was like Jimmy Timmy Power Hours, and that was
that's true. They did have that, yeah.
And of course, we will never reach the heights.
Never. No, we can't do it.
Those were incredible moments. But like, I mean, we don't have anything like that. Like, we don't have any shows like that we could that this could happen with. Granted, that is an interesting case because Jimmy Neutron and Fairly Odd Parents are very different looking shows. which is why it was so funny that they did that. But like we just can't do anything like that, Nick, and which is really frustrating. But it's also kudos to Cartoon Network that they can do something, that this incredible and like great, and like obviously Cartoon Network has some good things going for it.
Yeah. I don't know. That's enough for that. But it's an interesting note. I was just thinking that, like,
I guess we can't have our complain podcast anymore.
I mean, we can say good things and complain, but I just would love Mike and Brian tackling this 10 episode format. Maybe like 6 episodes instead of like they tried to do this with Korra season 1, but I feel like they tried to do too much and it was too long. Like I feel
it's interesting what they could do in 11 minutes. Like that would be what would fascinate me. What they could do in this. Like exactly this format, 11 minutes, 10 episodes. Like
I would either want to see 11 minutes, 10 episodes, or I'd want to see like 6 episodes, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Like that would be fine. 6 episodes, 22 minutes. Yeah. I this format works so well for this. I want to see it explored more. Basically, is the overall conclusion. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, good.
Sorry, I guess I didn't say it loud enough. Yes.
Yes. Okay, good. I'm Dylan Hysen, that's Delaney Stovall. You can find our social media links and everything about. And so it's at the end of this. Where can we find you, Delaney, after this 4-part podcast series? People are convinced to now follow you on Tumblr.
Please, at Guru Korasami, and I'll probably be trying some like Over the Garden Wall fan art because I am very, very obsessed with Wirt's character design.
It was very interesting. This is, by the way, I didn't say this earlier. This is a great example of a show using the mythology to justify the initial designs. Like we were talking about this in me and Sam's Steven Universe podcast. The gems looking like humans is the initial design, and I want that explained within the mythology of the show, right? Like in a similar way that the Wirt's cool costume is eventually explained within the show. I'm Dylan Hysen. Dylan OVA on Tumblr, Dylan_OVA on Twitter. And you can find everything about this podcast at overlyanimated.com. You can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/overlyanimated. We need your help to continue doing coverage of shows like this. I mean, the more support, the more things we can cover in theory.
If you yell at us enough, we'll probably cover it.
Yeah, and recommend things for us. Like doing this was a direct result of you guys yelling at us enough about it, so that's good. Huge thanks to our current patrons, Andy, Beatrice, Mitch, Nate, Cordell, and Shayna. Buzz Lightyear, Beatrix Lestrange. What was our Beatrice? Would be Beatrice. Or Beatrice too for the show. Fever Mitch, Nathan Fillion.
Bluebird. It was Bluebird.
Bluebird. Oh yeah, I like that nickname a lot. Bluebird. Cornell University and Hannah. And these patrons are current as of August 22nd, which is when we're recording this. This one's not going to be released for like another week. But Delaney and I cannot resist trying to finish the show soon. It would have been even worse if we extended this like.
I literally moved in 2 days ago, and I'm like, oh, I need to watch this. We need to finish it.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, guys. If you listen to all 4 parts of this Over the Garden Wall podcasting coverage, tell me in a Tumblr ask at Dylan OVA, and that'll be cool. I don't know. No hashtag for us. What hashtag could it be? I don't want to actually do hashtags. I'm not going to actually check.
Hashtag Jason Funderburg.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, I'm sure that's being used by other people, but that's okay. And yeah, anything else, Delaney?
Nope, it was great.
Yeah,
Woo.
Very, very happy that we did this. Yeah, cool. And I also think this podcast ended up being really good. So cool. Yay. Thanks. We usually have this brief down after we end, but there you go. We got it before we ended this time.
Yay.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.